Let's rewind the clocks a bit in the NBA, specifically to a time when the decision was made. You remember that, right? It was when LeBron took his talents to South Beach, and as a result of that, created a super team with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. A venture that led to 4 straight NBA appearances with 2 titles as a result. Because of that success, multiple teams across the NBA tried to make their own super teams with very mixed success. As is proven in this current NBA season with both the Los Angeles Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets. And now, one of the stars of the Nets is not just frustrated, he might be on the trading block. Allow us to show you why James Harden is frustrated with the Nets. The situation and the frustration. James Harden joined the Brooklyn Nets in part because doing so was supposed to create the greatest offense in NBA history. No team had ever employed 3 in their prime shot creators as dominant as Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving before. And with a deep stable of shooters led by Joe Harris to surround them, the Nets assembled perhaps the most offensively gifted roster in NBA history. It's just rarely been together at the same time, which meant their success has not just been limited, but frustrating for those, and there were many, who claimed that this would be the next dynasty of the NBA. Durant has suffered significant injuries in back-to-back seasons. Irving is only a part-time player thanks to a New York City vaccine mandate. Kyrie has been vehemently anti-vax. Harris has struggled to recover from a major ankle injury and might now need a second surgery. The team Harden wanted to join largely hasn't been the one he's actually played for. And, according to The Athletic's Alex Schiffer, that has been a source of major frustration for the 2018 MVP. Harden reportedly came to Brooklyn expecting to be a part of a 3-headed monster, yet has played a similar role to what was required of him in Houston, having to be the guy. There is some truth to those frustrations. Harden, Irving, and Durant have played just 16 games together. The Nets look like obvious championship favorites in both of the last 2 seasons, but circumstances at least partially out of Harden's control have hindered Brooklyn's title hunt. Statistically, though, it would be a bit unfair to say that Harden has had to carry the sort of load he did in Houston. Usage. Harden's usage rate with the Rockets averaged out at around 33% and peaked above 40%. With the Nets, it's fallen to around 28%. His assist rate has jumped playing alongside Durant and Irving, but that doesn't account for such a steep decline. It's not as though he's been forced to play completely independently either. Harden played in 44 regular season games with the Nets last season. Irving participated in 27 of them, and Durant played in another 11. Durant has played in 32 of Harden's 44 games this season, while Irving has participated in 8 more. That's not the 3-headed monster that Harden expected. And such a top-heavy roster exacerbates the absence of any single star. The Nets are not especially deep because few 3-star teams can afford to be, and missing Harris has severely restricted Brooklyn's spacing. But it's not as though Harden has been without help entirely. Having just one of Irving or Durant by his side is a luxury. Not every star is so lucky. Not to mention, Harden has been struggling this season with injuries as well. Out. James Harden sat out Tuesday night's 126-91 loss to the Boston Celtics because of left hamstring tightness. It was the 3rd consecutive missed game for Harden, and it remains unclear when he'll be able to return to the floor. Coach Steve Nash said before Tuesday's game that he wasn't sure whether Harden would be ready to play Thursday against the Washington Wizards. "I think he's still doing his strengthening," Nash said. "He'll do court work, but I think taking the wheels off and exploding is still something that he wants to cover. So when he shoots, he still looks like James. But as far as like changing ends and accelerating and all that stuff, I think it's being conservative right now to continue to regain that strength that's there right now. Just to be safe and to look long term. There's no point in us risking a big patch of the season for him to be back where he was last year for long stretches." Veteran guard Patty Mills said he wasn't sure if the speculation was distracting Harden or not, but questions continue to linger over a Nets team that has lost 9 in a row following Tuesday's setback. "I think what he's trying to do at the moment is take care of his hammy and look after it," Mills said Tuesday, "and do everything in his power to make sure he's healthy." The Nets are already playing without Kevin Durant, sprained MCL, LaMarcus Aldridge, sprained ankle, Nick Claxton, hamstring tightness, Joe Harris, ankle injury, and Kyrie Irving. And the result of this is a massive losing streak that no one would have predicted when this three-headed monster came together. And there's another factor in all of this, and that's that James Harden might be getting traded very soon. The trade rumors. Mills said trade speculation has an impact on the locker room, but it depends on how each individual player responds to the rumors that pop up every year. I think it comes down to the individual and whether that person buys into what's being said or not, Mills said. For myself, as an example, to be able to stay away from things that could lead into distractions as a professional and someone that's been here for a little bit, you try to limit all those distractions. So, advice that I give the young guys is just stay in the moment and stay locked in on what you're trying to do here. You've got no control over it anyway. Whatever happens, happens. If Harden were to be traded to Philadelphia, as rumors have hinted, he'd be playing alongside Joel Embiid. There would not be a third star on the roster, and Embiid has suffered plenty of his own injuries. There is a reasonable chance that, at least for stretches, Harden would be asked to be the man again. That would be the case on any team Harden played for. He made his name as a player by becoming one of the greatest individual shot creators in NBA history. That is his skill set. That is what teams are requiring him to bring to the table. He might not be capable of doing it at the level he did in his physical prime anymore, but if he plans to win a championship in Brooklyn or elsewhere, he should probably get comfortable with the idea that it's going to be necessary at least some of the time. No situation is ever as clean and talented as Brooklyn's was supposed to be. The rumors continue to boil. The whispers about a James Harden for Ben Simmons trade keep getting louder as we move closer to the NBA trade deadline on Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Appearing on ESPN's Get Up, Brian Windhorst said things are trending in the direction of the Brooklyn Nets and Philadelphia 76ers working out a deal. The teams are absolutely engaged in trade discussions. I know that there's people saying things on the record, trying to act like that's not happening, but it is absolutely happening. There is definite motivation from both sides to make this fall into place. The Sixers were out there yesterday having trade negotiations with other teams looking to clear roster spots, looking to move other players on their roster, including Tobias Harris, in what looks like ancillary moves to support a James Harden arrival. Who's to blame? That is a very interesting question because Harden moved a lot of pieces back with the Rockets to ensure that he got with the Nets to contend for a title. 2 seasons later, and suddenly he might be out. So how did this fall apart, and who's to blame? You could partially blame Harden, not for his injuries of course, but rather the fact that he went to a super team while it was clear one was very injured, Durant, and one was a very unpredictable fella, Kyrie. He thought that it would work out like his time with Chris Paul almost did. But instead, it never even got close to that level. And while Harden has said he's not frustrated with Kyrie Irving, he is absolutely a key part in this failing because of his anti-vax mindset. A mindset held by many and has set the US back far in its recovery from COVID. He didn't even start the season, and only after things got really bad for the Nets did they relent in their stance and allow Kyrie to come back for the away games. Something that won't change if they get into the playoffs. And finally, you can blame the Nets, because they were so sure this was going to be a sure thing and risked everything on it. And now, they might lose it all in one foul swoop. So, what do you think? What do you think of this look at James Harden and why he is so frustrated with his current team predicament? Do you think that he will be traded to another team so that he can be happy again? Or do you think he'll tough it out and see what happens in the playoffs should Kyrie and Durant be back at close to full power? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time on the channel.